Welcome to the 2026 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today we'll be exploring a topic that is redefining how organizations understand, support, and empower their people. Our theme for the session today is From HR Processes to HR Intelligence, the future of people management. To help us explore this transformation, we are delighted to welcome Mr. Srinath Gururajarao. Srinath is a seasoned HR leader with over 25 years of diverse experience across manufacturing, IT, media, and banking sectors. He has held leadership roles at renowned organizations, including Tech Mahindra, Capgemini, and Nexval Inc., where he consistently drove impactful HR strategies and business aligned transformation. Most recently, he served as a senior vice president HR at Simple Energy, where he led digital HR innovation, leadership development, and workforce planning. Srinath has been recognized by Forbes, the Great Manager Institute, the World HRD Congress, and Mercer for excellence in AI driven HR practices. He has also authored 6 HR technology IPS and remains committed to building agile, high performing cultures through strategic people leadership. Srinath, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Neha, to HRAI and you especially having me today and to give this opportunity to share some of the examples and the current trends and also learn from each other in terms of how industry itself is shaping up with a lot of buzzwords, a lot of practices being overhauled. It's a wonderful time to have a discussion on this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure, Srinath, to have you once again in this dialogue masterclass, and I look forward to this exciting session. So, to begin with, Srinath, my first question for you is HR has traditionally focused on processes. So, I want to know what is driving the shift towards intelligence driven HR today?
Oh yes, just looking back, this is a great time to talk about this. If you hear to any of the professionals today, all of them talk about AI, how it is changing the landscape. The landscape is shifting. Skills in demand have transformed tremendously, and so on. But if you just glimpse one of your fellow colleagues, desktops, you will find a lot of Excel sheets still saying final 1.0, final 2.0 and stuff, right? That's the digital transformation that you still see that is being overhauled or yet to be overhauled, but still the legacy sticks on. And why do you see that is because, HR has become more digital, but the intelligence is still to catch up, right? So we buy software, but that doesn't make HR intelligent or a person intelligent. We might have a treadmill at home, but it doesn't make you fit unless you practice on that. The future of HR is not about collecting more information. It's about how do we deploy those that have capability of that information or intelligence into better employee decision. So HR has traditionally focused, if you look at the generations, we moved from personal department, where we asked what happened to payroll, what happened to attendance, what happened to leave compliance, salaries, the processes per se, and then took action upon that. Then HR 2.0 was more about, okay, now we have all of this intact and it is running in a consistent manner. How do we improve those, like a performance, learning, competencies, engagement of your people? How do we manage great talent and derive benefit in terms of adding more value to business processes, people, talent, and across? Now we are in an age where you can call it 3.0, you can call it 4.0, because it's a tremendous jump that we have seen from the traditional practices is where intelligence is being shaped up. What will happen next? You're getting into a paradigm of prediction, right? You're preparing your systems, practices, processes to understand and answer what will happen next. Who will resign? Who will become a leader? Which team will fail? Who should receive a promotion? Which employee is silently disengaged? So these are some of the critical questions that businesses ask and want to know so that they can act differently. Difference is simple. Earlier, HR managed transaction. Today, we manage predictions.
Right.
Tomorrow, HR will manage decisions, right? So, quoting on a real example, Neha, is when I was leading HR transformation, managers used to ask, can you give me an attrition report? right? Today, leaders ask, tell me who is likely to resign in the next 90 days. That is the difference. Reports describe yesterday, intelligence predicts tomorrow, right? And we used to, typically count how many employees attended training. Today, AI says, did anyone actually learn anything from those trainings, all those trainings that we conducted? Those are two different, KPIs that, have. If I have to quote from the industry, and our own examples, Amazon doesn't wait for attrition. Netflix doesn't wait for poor performance. Google doesn't wait for disengagement. Grow doesn't wait for culture builds. Best companies predict before problems become visible. That is why HR intelligence is becoming a boardroom capability rather than an HR function alone, right? So that is the difference.
Sure. Thank you so much. Beautifully put. HR, as you said, while it is becoming more digital, the importance of intelligence and the ability to read the data which AI provides becomes very, very critical in today's age. So it's
Right.
it's all about, as you rightly said, how to deploy that data, how to deploy that information to the best. And the paradigm of prediction, beautifully put, that reports now today tells you more about the predictive analysis than what has already happened. So I think any company, any leader, if they have the ability to leverage AI and handle it intelligently, they will always have an edge. So thank you so much for that. My next question, Srinath, is with your work in people analytics and predictive tools, how can organizations move from data collection to actionable insights?
There is one simple question that I ask my team every time I see a report, every time I see a dashboard. What decisions did you change because of this dashboard? If the answer is silence, then you have not understood your data from a perspective where it can bring in paradigm shifts to the way you conduct your business or practices or processes. Because at the end of the day, data has to talk to you, data has to give you meaning, data has to generate value to the way that a particular thing is being practiced, right? Because dashboards are beautiful with colors, with graphs, with you name it, and you have a design template today available. But it is completely useless if it is not intelligent, if the insights are not processed properly, if decisions are lead you to nowhere and just kind of projecting what is already known. So a simple framework is, if I have this four layered variable data, what is it that I can do from that data point, right? For example, today we can predict attrition. I talked about it in the earlier question too. Today we can know who is disengaged and at what level, and what are the levers that we use to be able to go back, rectify that engage, and create a better experience for a disengaged person, right? We can today deploy actionable manager coaching, improve compensation variables or factors, offer career mobility options, reduced workloads, and measure again. And that is intelligence. Today, if I don't know what action should I take with the information that is available in front of my eyes, then that is absolutely useless, right? So therefore, we should be able to organize ourselves in a way that the intelligence that is being present is actionable, is leading something to become better, faster, quicker, and agile, right? So 20 employees resign. If you assume traditional HR used to ask why, intelligent HR should say who is next. That one question changes everything. In healthcare, we did a lot of things. So, doctor used to say you might have had diabetes for 3 years earlier. Now we should say, what are the preventive measures that could help you prevent from engaging and preventing yourself from getting that disease itself in the first place. So HR and well-being is a great example in terms of intelligence, what we can do with that data, because a long timer will have a lot of wealth of information in terms of practices and processes that they would engage, and AI could help their in taking better decisions. And today we have deployed that. We have reduced our cost of insurance, reduced our incidences of absence due to illness, reduced the practices that led to these illnesses in the first place, right? By predicting it better, by augmenting our data and information into a meaningful way. Therefore, HR has to use those tools or the dash or AI to be able to better predict and prevent certain occurrences which could harm the way a business could be run and make it more efficient. If you look at traditionally for the last 50, 60 years, the machinery, that the tools that we used in industries, in organizations, have almost been predictive. You know when they fail, you know when to do the maintenance work on that in a typical setup. But people is the advantage today. More or less every competing organization have those tools, have those charts to measure and maintain the tools. But when it comes to real advantage, it is the people, it is the value that the people generate within the organizations. And to measure that and create a better impact experience and engaging them with the intelligence is what this shift is all about. I think the sooner organizations realize, we realize as leaders, and we engage it in a manner which yields results, and that is the shift that we are seeing.
Sure, absolutely. Loved how you beautifully started, Srinath, where you said data has no meaning if you are not able to derive any decision out of it. So that's one key point there. And data points should speak something, should add value to your analysis and your decisions further. I loved how you correlated well-being and HR intelligence as well. And last but not the least, I think if you become more alert, more predictive, it will eventually make you more agile to what is going to come next in this rapidly changing landscape now. So thank you so much for beautifully putting it together. My next
Thank
question,
you.
Srinath, is AI is rapidly transforming HR. Where do you see the biggest real impact? Hiring, performance, or employee experience?
Well, answer is, equally across, because today with AI, you could do improvements on parallel tracks, not unlike before that you had to do some things in a manner that you had to complete one, start one, complete one, and then go to the next. Because AI capability is multifaceted and you could experience. The biggest changes that I am seeing, witnessing, and I'm part of some of these at Grow On is where we've built hiring platform where HCM of Grow On HCM is available, is seeing a fastest transformation, right? Today, hiring is experiencing the fastest transformation amongst these. Tomorrow, you will see employee experience creating the biggest competitive advantage. Long-term performance intelligence will redefine organizations. Coming to hiring, earlier, you traditionally looked at sourcing resumes, going through the sifting through the resumes, screening whether somebody fit the job description or not, whether they came with the credentials that you were looking for, experiences you were looking for, and stuff. Today, AI can read thousands of resumes, conduct interviews, generate skill reports, assess communication, predict role fit. This is exactly what platforms like modern AI hiring solutions are beginning to deliver. Recruiters don't lose jobs, they lose repetitive work. It is more of intelligence that is capturing the imagination of administrative work more beautifully, generating value at a much higher and faster pace than before. And that is the advantage. If you looked at traditionally, recruiters used to spend 6 hours reading resumes. Now AI does it in 6 minutes. Recruiter finally gets time to actually talk to human beings, right? So imagine that. On performance, front, annual appraisals is becoming obsolete, right? It has already changed. Employees don't improve every December or January or April just before the appraisal letters are distributed or the process start. They need to improve every day. That continuous coaching, continuous performance paradigm shift is an everyday activity, and AI is enabling that. Today, you could, as soon as you log in onto a portal, organizations are capable to produce that information and say, you know what, this is where you could do better. These are the things that you could do at a much higher pace, and this is what will help you do that. And if I have doubts, I don't have to run to my manager or to a leader sitting in a corner office. I just have to tap and ask a bot saying, why don't you coach me on this and how do I improve myself? That is the performance management paradigm shift that we are seeing today. On employee experience, you don't compare policies anymore. At Grow On, we are writing a manual with just cartoon images, right? We're making it simpler, making it beautiful, making it talk and resonate to the modern workforce. And that experience carries a lot of impact in terms of bringing the power of intelligence to be able to communicate simple things to employees and engage them and get them aligned to the way of your work. Within 5 years, what I see is every employee will have an AI coach, every manager will have a AI leadership assistant, every CHRO will have a workforce digital twin, and we have already built one on the HCM platform that we have at Grow On. And companies that ignore this will struggle to attract talent. That is for sure. So this is the shift that we are seeing across the board today. A lot of CHROs, I speak to in the various forums, come to me and say, you know what, how do we bring AI into the picture? Right? What do we do with that, and how do we engage? And we have seen a large scale adoption. India, in fact, Indian organization, one of the highest as per the recent survey reports, that are adopting AI in their workforce processes.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. So, from what I hear, just to summarize, it is equally impacting hiring performance and employee experience. I think while technology will impact these areas, the intensity or to will the impact be fruitful, it is proportionate to how intelligently the technology is used. And as you rightly said, the more simpler it is, the more easy to understand is for the workforce. So, thank you so
Yes.
much. The next one, Srinath, is how can HR leaders balance automation with the human touch while adopting advanced technology?
I think balancing is a misconception. Yeah. Why do I say that? Is AI is not replacing empathy. AI is replacing administration and bringing intelligence to that administration, which was manual and mundane and repetitive. Humans should do only what humans do best: listening, coaching, inspiring somebody, negotiating, building trust. AI should handle everything else. Right? I tell HR leaders, never automate empathy, automate paperwork. Right? So imagine an employee loses a parent. Would you like AI to send, dear employee, our condolences, ticket number 453? No. Uh, but what should AI process automatically is leave, insurance, documentation, benefits, without making the employee run behind HR. Absolutely, this is compassionate automation, not the ones that I mentioned earlier. So, I mean, the principle is to ensure that your technology should enhance or increase conversations and not reduce conversations. Leave the mundane to the automation part. Keep the empathy, keep the human aspects, conversations going on. And how much time did HR business partners or HR spend with employees last week versus filling spreadsheets, generating data, sitting behind a screen, and working the administrative part of it? HR has to be on the floor, talking to people, engaging, motivating, coaching, empathizing, and walking the talk. So that is possible today in a much more manner, in terms of hours or time spent having the conversations, rather than generating intelligence, right? So that part is what is taken away.
Sure, absolutely. Beautifully said. As you said, AI will do what it is best at, which is replacing the administrative work, but humans should do what they are good at, be it empathy, listening, and loved this particular term, compassionate automation. I've never heard this. Very, very thought-provoking. So there is no balance as such, as you said. It is all about leveraging technology, but at the same time, ensuring that there is humanity, there is enough you know intention to create a culture where people have that sense of belongingness and thriving in that particular ecosystem, which only humans can do. So thank you so much. This is the last question, Srinath, which is, if you had to give one clear advice to HR leaders, what should they start doing today to transition from HR processes to HR intelligence?
I think we are all, stuck and habituated with the fact that measuring leads to better outcomes, but actually forgetting what are the outcomes that actually are needed to be able to make that difference. So stop measuring the activities per se, but start measuring the actual impact. Automatically the processes and activities align themselves to create that impact. So that is one. Two, earlier days, I remember how many trainings or 40 hours per employee per month, X number of productivity improvement, Y percentage of customer satisfaction improvement, all these were measured. Advice is simple, go to the business, how business metrics improved as aligned to these when these were measured. So we are moving from a fact that as I said earlier, the industrial age, the industrial tools are optimized already, right? So there is nothing much that you can predict and prevent and maintain those. What is the real competitive advantage is with the intelligence that we have. Leaders have to see how to create business impact. As I said, when you worked upon a metric of wellness and health and well-being of your employees, automatically your productivity improved, your absence rates reduced, your healthy rate improved, your people were much happier, and your hiring numbers came down simply because your absenteeism is addressed adequately, right? So that is the power of intelligence. So I recommend all the HR leaders to use intelligence very thoroughly and ensure that you manage the business impact or create vision where, as a leader, this is exactly what I want and how I want my business to look at in a future point of time, in a quarter, in a year. This is what I will do and what I am prepared to do. And instead of asking how many interviews we did, how many conversions from offer to joining, from screening to joining, etc., look at how did my hires perform for the year, right? How many of them were able to perform at the levels that we rated them when we did the fitment in the initial stage of hiring? That is real business impact. And how many, instead of learning hours, how many got promoted because I trained them well? How many succeeded into the next roles? How many built new business experiences? How many built new business value propositions? How did my customer experience for the business improve because I administered this training program? So that is something that an HR dashboard should look like, and a CEO should ask those questions. I remember a time when we used to go with 15-20 slides of presentation decks, and there was a single question from our CEO saying, "So what?" It triggered a lot of emotion and commotion within the audience as to what should be the answer. Because, as I said earlier, data doesn't create value. It is we who understand what that data can do and how we actualize the impact is what creates that. So artificial intelligence, as I said, will never replace human intelligence, but people using artificial intelligence will replace people who don't. I think this is oftly said, but I love this quote. And organizations using HR intelligence will obviously outperform organizations that continue managing HR as a people work. So the future of CHRO is no longer the head of human resources. The future CHRO is the chief human intelligence officer. So
Sure.
that's my closing comment.
Absolutely. Wonderful takeaways. To start with, you said stop measuring activities, rather focus on measuring the outcomes. Intelligence is very, very critical. It's another great advice. Asking the right questions and, working backwards from your goal is truly the key. And as you rightly said, companies using and leveraging AI will definitely outperform those, the ones which don't. So thank you so much for your great insights. This brings us to the end of this session, Srinath. And on behalf of HRAI, I thank you for your time and insights. It was truly a wonderful conversation. And you have actually reminded us that the future of HR is not defined by technology alone. It is defined by how intelligently you use the technology to empower people and drive better results. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, HRI, for this amazing session. I enjoyed answering those questions, and I hope that my sharing of those experiences will help our audiences much more. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks.